Someday I would love to meet Matt Greenfield, the former head of ADV Films, and pick his brain a little bit about how he chose some of the series that he ended up licensing. At this point, looking through the back catalog of that company, I just have to wonder if they were getting packing deals from some of these licensors. Hey, if you pick up Nadia Secret of Blue Water, we'll throw in Double Hunter Yoko for free. Not that this had done them wrong over the years, but the relative qualities of the random series they would pick up often were around the same mark as stuff like MD Geist or Venus Wars. It is with this in mind that we look at 801st TTS Airbats, or Blue Sky Girls Squad as it was originally called. I suppose they were trying to make it more interesting by giving it a more militarized name. I certainly wouldn't have picked it up if it was just called Blue Sky Girls Squad, so bravo for marketing there. I'd probably have dismissed it as some weird set of idol shows, but then I do that for most anime series that come out these days. It follows the adventures of the 801st Tactical Training Squadron called the Airbats, a unit featuring only female pilots, and guess what? It's produced in association with the Japanese Self-Defense Forces. Surprise, surprise. If I was the JSDF, I'd have sprung for something with a little bit more story in it, but I don't imagine people who become career military folks are astonishingly creative. So here's the main conceit of the show. You know how You're Under Arrest was funny and it had really good characterization? The idea here is to take that concept and transfer it from beat cops to jet jockeys. There's a couple of major issues with that in this case. 1. The JSDF Air Force doesn't do anything remotely close to actual combat missions. 2. These are basically the Blue Angels, so there's no real danger or missions to actually participate in. And 3. The characters are thinner than the paper they're produced on. So our main character is Isurugi, who's seconded up as a mechanic to the Airbats, probably because they pilot finicky machines that require constant maintenance. Apparently the ability to fly is a real hard thing to pull off, who knew? But upon making a somewhat poor impression with the Colonel, he proceeds to make an even worse impression on the two lady pilots when he goes traipsing through the base like a big goddamn idiot. No, I don't particularly care for him, can you tell? The two lead pilots of the squadron are Miyuki Haneda, girl number 1, whose defining feature is that she's not that big of a screw-up, but she did smack a superior officer once, so she ended up stuck in the Airbats. Why did she strike this officer? Because it's something that rhymes with sexual harassment. Put it together. Conversely, Arisa Mitaka, girl number 2, is an actual fuck-up. She's a better pilot, but she's too strong-willed, which means that, no, she can't actually get with the main character. Sorry, folks. It's astonishing to me how many times I've said that over the course of this review career I've had. I could almost make the review for this show from sound clips from my own videos. There are 2 other pilots, but who cares about them because they're not part of the love triangle. Now, the 2 piloting women are sergeants, and were given flight clearance to run this aerobatics team. That's an astonishingly low rank to be able to fly a multi-million-dollar war machine. And while jets are super cool, there's really not a lot of aerobatics you can actually do with them. Now that Isurugi is here, they're even crappier to each other in the air, too. So here comes my main problem with these hotshot numbskulls. They're reckless even for a stunt pilot team. For all the damage that they incur on these fighter jets regularly, they should be cleaning latrines right now, not zipping around skyward. Now, I know there's a pretty big budget for military units, but nothing's made of money, alright? Irritatingly enough, there's a colonel who is trying to get the unit shut down, and for some reason he doesn't cite all the damage that these two do to their own planes as a sufficient reason. Look, I'm not saying you have to have perfect realism here, but a little consistency would go a long way. Sure, Miyuki and Natsumi damage their police cruisers when they go all out, but they're also highly successful police officers. The flying morons here, not so much. I'd go more into these characters, but if you've seen an anime in the last 3 decades, you know all of these characters already. More specifically, you know better versions of all these characters if you watched Pat Labor, or You're Under Arrest, or even Tenchi Muyo to a fault. And just like those shows, which have their own blends of derpy, pointless episodes, Airbats actually has a majority of their episodes dedicated to these well-tread and worn-out episodes. I think this is by far the most painful show I've had to sit through in a long time, and that's with the subs on and watching it at twice speed. Look, I know I'm kind of a salty guy, it's kind of my thing, but I do try to give things a shot. I'll admit I go in with preconceived notions sometimes about certain types of shows, and when you've watched enough anime like I have, you just start to grow them. So when the first episode starts off with the same nothing character going and doing the same accidental peeping Tom thing, and then getting that crap kicked out of him like I've seen a half a dozen times before, and that's just this month, mind, I can fairly well confirm that this show is going to play out pretty well like I expect. You know what? I don't get surprised very often. I wasn't surprised here. Now, I will say that if there's one bright spot in this whole endeavor is there are a few very funny imagined spots, which demonstrates that even if they can't tell a story, they sure can make a very pretty show. This is obviously due to the Japanese Air Force providing detailed references for the animators, and it holds up pretty well for something that came out in 1995. I will also say that it's kind of fun picking out things in the background, like what shows the statues in Isarugi's room are from, but that's a point of light in a very dark sky. I suppose my main issue with this show at the end of the day is this. If you can't make a good show, make an ambitious show. If you can't be ambitious, make a bad show so people can watch it and see what not to do. If you can't be a bad show, don't make a show at all, because mediocrity doesn't help anyone. And that's what it is. Concentrated mediocrity. So once again, to offer up suggestions for a retooling of this show, ditch the love triangle. Try and make something interesting happen. Either make it like a sports show with an aerobatic competition, or go completely nuts and make aliens appear or something. And yeah, well, that sounds kind of cliche and dime a dozen. It's not much of a change up from what it already is. If you're gonna put effort in the right places. As it stands, this show is nothing but a high altitude flame out.